Hey guys, welcome back to The Oldest Magic. So tonight I wanted to go with you guys on another night journey. And this time I wanted to talk about the inward eye, meaning contemplation. For me, the night has always been a time where I can kind of indulge in spiritual self-reflection and contemplation, my place in the universe, the mistakes or successes that I've made in my own life. And for me, it's because it's a quieter, more self-reflective time. I've spoken in a previous video about my kind of personal connection to the night and the kind of pleasure I get from that time of day and the magic that I kind of feel that is infused into that time of day. But this time I want to discuss, more esoteric matters and the nature of contemplation. So I think when I was growing up, I quickly learned that true spirituality is very deeply, deeply connected to inner psychological states and art and storytelling. And I realized that we couldn't really understand any of those things unless we understood the nature of contemplation, looking inward. And I'm a big believer that everybody has a kind of interior life, whether they realize it or not. For many people, that interior life is kind of constellated around, the idea of religion, for example. Or for an atheist, it might just be, the notion of pure morality. For most people, I think it's many things. I think it's bits and pieces of religion, movies and songs and TV shows and stories that they've heard, things that they've overheard from friends, moments in your personal life that have left a profound impact on you. And I think all of these things together kind of conjure the richness of our interior lives. And for me, night, and also twilight, has always been a time where I can sort of better tune in to this aspect of myself. And that's kind of what I'm attempting to do here with you guys now. So with regards to contemplation and, the kind of inward eye, I think I realized when I was a young person, I spent a lot of time struggling with very bad depression. And this often became a crippling kind of depression, if I'm honest. And it's strange because back then I didn't really realize that I was depressed. I knew what it was intellectually and I understood it. And I had a very keen mind intellectually, especially for someone so young. But I guess I couldn't bridge the gap between my intellectual keenness and my emotional reality. And I don't think I'm different really from many people in that sense. I think we all suffer from that, a lot of us, I should say, in the sense that we all often feel like we're somehow not special, or we're somehow ordinary, or we're somehow not worth the insight that we afford to other people. Sometimes we can be the best therapists and teachers and mentors to others, but when it comes to applying those insights to our own lives, or even recognizing the kind of traumas and struggles that we're going through in our own lives, it's very, very difficult for us to bridge that gap. And I think the same was true for me. It's I was everybody's best friend and I was everybody's big brother, and people came to me for spiritual guidance, for lack of a better term, even when I was very young. But it was very difficult for me to apply that spiritual guidance to myself, or to even see the issues that I was struggling with any kind of clarity. I could sometimes I knew that I was very, very unhappy, but the idea of me being actually depressed or suffering from some form of clinical depression, I couldn't really see that until much later. So also for me, I think it complicated things because I was, for lack of a better term, gifted with a kind of clairsentience, a kind of spiritual sight. And I know this is a contentious subject. I know a lot of people don't necessarily believe in the concept of second sight, psychic ability. But I'm speaking the absolute truth here when I say that for me, I grew up in a very strange liminal kind of world where those realities were very real, and it was something I had to grapple with a great deal. And it enhanced my life in many ways and it made my life richer and more beautiful. But in other ways, it was a very difficult and frightening time and a very isolating time. And I think that led to this depression as well. Obviously, I had other struggles going on. I had issues in my personal life, and my family life was very volatile. And so as I got older and I began to grasp that I may be suffering from some form of like depression, very bad depression, I tried to marshal my inner forces, my inner resources, and try and truly understand what was happening to me. And I came to the understanding that my view of reality was radically different from the other people around me, the other children, the other adults, because of these experiences, these kind of more esoteric experiences that I'd been through. And it was incredibly isolating on the one hand, but it was incredibly liberating. And it's a difficult thing to try and describe because on the one hand, I was like, I've got no one to turn to. Other people who call themselves spiritual or religious have a very strict view of what they consider to be possible. Whereas my experience was that so many things that we think are impossible are in fact possible and literally happening all around us as part of the unseen fabric of reality. So I felt like I can't go to certain adults and explain this to them because they are going to see my experience as heretical, for lack of a better term, or unbelievable. I was afraid that if I went to, a Christian pastor or a minister, for example, and said, oh, hey, I have prophetic dreams and visions and I can sense things and I can see things that most people can't see, I was afraid that, he would say that I'm dark in some way or cursed in some way or of the devil's ilk, I often thought that if I was born in the Middle Ages, I would have been burned as a witch or a sorcerer or something. And it sounds absurd to kind of say this into the camera, obviously. But as a kid, and your only understanding of how people treat those who see the spiritual realm as real, your only understanding of that is from movies and TV shows and stuff, and the little bit you know of history as a child. And that can be really frightening because you're like, my God, I better shut my fucking mouth and not say anything to anyone, because if this is how people react, like how I see people react in movies and TV shows when they meet people like me, that's a dangerous place to live. And I don't want to put myself under threat in that way. So I don't want to give people the wrong idea, because it's not like my experience was completely outside the realm of religion either. Like I think I've expressed this in other videos. I grew up in a mixed religious household, right? So I have a very deep fondness for Christianity and Hinduism. And I'm also a student of religion and religious history. So I have a lot of patience and a lot of warmth for various kinds of faiths. And I guess my view of religion is very complex in the sense that, we have the exoteric view of religion, which is, the kind of surface view of religion that everybody understands. And then we have a more esoteric view, which is a little bit more inward themed, a little bit more hidden, mysterious, occulted. And I don't mean occult in the sense of like secret societies and things like that. I just mean in the sense of not easily understood. For example, there are many Christian mystics all throughout history who have delved into the Christian mysteries, and they've treated it as a rich tapestry of wisdom, information, prophetic dreams, and a rich vein of wisdom to be kind of uncovered and understood and applied to our daily lives. And if you look in the Bible, like there are many people like that within the Bible itself, within the stories of the Bible itself. Paul, for example, Christ himself, all of the key players, I guess is what I'm trying to say, within the stories of the Bible often had prophetic dreams, strange occurrences, spiritual encounters, etc. So these things are not separate from the notion of religion. They don't exist in some separate bubble. You know what I mean? But furthermore, I, as a young person, came to understand that these things were also equally connected to storytelling and art and human creativity and human dreaming, and that we could not separate our cognition from these things. And if we wanted to have a richer, more mature grasp of who we were as people and the kind of depth and breadth of our own psychology, we had to account for these things. We had to account for spirituality. We had to account for mysticism. We had to account for creativity and precognition and hope and grace and not just the esoteric, but also the exoteric. The parables, the stories, the guidance. We could. What I'm trying to say is we couldn't discount any of it. We couldn't afford to discount any of it. It's all important. It's all meaningful. And depending on the type of person you are, it can all lead you to a more authentic, richer, and more rewarding life. So as I got older and I became a bit more dexterous and a bit more sophisticated in how I kind of delved into this idea of contemplation, the inward eye, I became more adept at sort of looking into the innermost realms and largely of my own consciousness, but the innermost in general. And I realized that I had been engaged in a battle with darkness for a long time, both literally and figuratively, and again, I'm not special. We all engage in this battle. This war of heaven is also occurring within us. Light and dark are also at war within each human heart, each human soul. And, artistically, symbolically, there are forces of light and forces of darkness all around us. We decide who the arbiters of understanding for those concepts are. For some people, it's your priest. For some, it's your father or your mother. For others, it's your church or your particular denomination. Regardless, we all decide who our teachers are going to be and what we're going to learn from the teachings that we kind of take on board and we internalize. So in my lowest points, as I got older, I realized that art and storytelling and music were the things that would give me the most relief. They're the things that would save me, essentially, because I felt closest to God. I felt closest to my Creator, my Father in heaven, when I was able to tap into the creative impulse and realize that art was being of service to me. And the way that I could kind of pay that forward or pay back that grace is to be a creative soul in some way, to create my own forms of art, my own poetry, my own stories, and try and give that into the world so that I could potentially help or touch or resonate with someone in the way that they did for me and kind of helped me. And then that impulse and that understanding kind of became the guiding mission for my life as I got older. And so basically what I want to say is that storytelling and movies and books and music really helped me to kind of contemplate my own existence and really sort of appreciate my inward eye, that ability to look within and figure out what really matters to me. And it helped me to feel less alone in this kind of battle with darkness that I was engaged in. I always saw myself as I wanted to be kind of a warrior of truth, a warrior of light, symbolically speaking. But obviously, as I grew up, I realized that this battle between light and darkness, between wisdom and ignorance, between love and hate, between compassion and sadism, however way you want to figure it, this war, it's very multidimensional, it's very deep, and it's very, very real. There are unseen forces moving all around us. There are unseen forces moving within us. There are unseen forces above us. There are unseen forces beneath us. And once you realize how real that is, you develop a very profound respect for religion and myth and human psychology and the ability to tell stories. You realize that this gift of free will is incredibly profound, And it can be turned into a weapon if we're not careful. Free will, the grace that we've been bestowed with, is essentially saying, I love you enough to allow you to do as you choose. But remember that the things that you choose have consequences, and you might not be literate enough. You might not be possessing sight enough to realize the depth and the breadth of those consequences and how far those consequences will travel into your future and the future of the people around you. And that's maturation in a way. That's sobriety, that's maturity, trying to grasp that as deeply as possible. And, to realize that, to paraphrase Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And wielding that power for the benefit of others is just as important as wielding that power for the psychological and spiritual health of yourself. So for me, music was a powerful tool that helped me overcome this kind of depression that I'd struggled with in my childhood. And I'm not fully recovered from it, if I'm honest, but I am a large portion of the way there. My general day-to-day life is so much brighter and so much more, I have so much more inner peace and comfort and a sense of like, I'm doing what I should be doing and I'm moving in the right direction, and I can actually breathe now. And music was a big part of that because it helped me feel closer to God. And two artists in particular really helped me. The Norwegian artist, Aurora Aksnes, her music means the world to me. And it's something I might go into in greater depth in another video. And also the American musician and songwriter, Lauryn Marie. And she has a YouTube channel, and you can find her music on Spotify. And she's also an incredibly gifted lyricist and musician and artist. And it's these two songwriters, these two artists, that really healed my soul, if I'm honest, and allowed me to peer inward, marshal my forces, marshal my resources, and kind of drag myself out of this darkness. So, Aurora, Lauryn, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I would not be here today without you. I would not be here at all without either of you. So, thank you. Thank you for bringing me closer to my Creator and to myself. So yeah, for me, art is kind of a form of symbolic resurrection. The music that I love, the art that I love, the ability to kind of contemplate and understand my place in a much larger mystery was a form of symbolic resurrection for me. It literally brought me back from the brink of death. And I don't think I'm an isolated case. I think there are many, many people who've had similar experiences. It's like you have to decide what you want to live for and who you want to live for and what you are willing to give back and put out there into the universe. And when you realize that you're just a small part of a much greater mystery, a lot of those existential fears and worries fall away, and you're like, okay, I've got a limited amount of time. How can I help? People have helped me. How can I do the same for others? Because, if you are a Christian, or if you're the best of any faith, you do believe in love and you do believe in trying to help others, right? Service. And if we can serve our brothers and sisters, then I think that's a useful way to spend our time on this earth. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I might not always get it right, but my desire and my intent to do that is genuine. And that's why I make these videos. That's why I write the poetry and the art that I put on the blog, Midnight Suns. That's why I'm doing all of this. So the music, particularly of Aurora and Lauryn Marie, kind of helped me to sort of refocus and kind of drag myself out of darkness and out of depression. Also, opening my heart to another, allowing myself to have romantic relationships that actually were meaningful and heart-based and, true. And I don't think I could have done that without the music that kind of healed me. I would never have opened my heart if I didn't kind of feel closer to my maker, because people like Aurora and people like Lauryn Marie kind of gave me a channel that I could reach for that. And so the profound gratitude I feel to those artists, and any artist whose intent is genuine, to kind of like, reach through and really touch someone's soul with the things that they make. It's, I can't put it into words, but I'm trying here with these videos. And so, yeah, for me, what really helped me once I had kind of the mental bandwidth again and the kind of inner peace and the ability to breathe, to kind of step back and say, okay, let me look at my life a little bit more clearly. This music has soothed me. This art has helped me. What do I want to do? I realized I had to incorporate meditation and journaling as a daily practice into my life. And I have. And it's been incredibly powerful for me. It has, like, my connection to the sense of grace and the sense of movement of these mysteries beneath the surface. I feel closer to my maker. I feel closer to other people. I'm so much more grateful. I'm so much more happier. The joy that I feel is of such a deeper and brighter quality because I've integrated things like journaling and kind of a meditation practice into my life. I always did these things kind of sporadically, but I never integrated it deeply enough. It's funny because I'm a writer, but like I didn't fully embody these practices because I just had so much chaos, in my head. I was dealing with so many things. So in conclusion, I just want to say that I'm extremely grateful to those two artists for giving me the insight and the mental bandwidth and the inner peace to really come to understand myself a little bit better and to make the inward eye, the act of contemplation a little bit more meaningful and rewarding for me personally. It didn't feel like just a empty exercise because I was given enough energy and enough hope to be able to really see into myself with a greater sense of depth. And I'm so grateful for that. So, in conclusion, the journey that I went through to get here, a point in my life where I feel so much better and I feel so much brighter, I really do owe to not just my maker directly, but through the artists and the artwork that allowed me to commune with my maker, using those artworks as a kind of vessel, a medium with which I could feel closer to God. And I felt less alone, and I don't want anyone to ever feel that alone. And there's a song that really touched me deeply by the Norwegian artist Aurora and got me through some dark times. And that song is a song called Lucky. And I want to read a line of it to you that kind of resonated with me over and over again. And it is, when I'm down, I lay my hands upon this ground. For the 1,000th time, I call him in. His earth is mine. And that really taught me to kind of be grounded and to be grateful and to be hopeful, to realize that, I am not nobody and my life has meaning. I am a child of the Creator, and my life might not be particularly amazing or magical or profound or even important, outside my own experience, but it is worthy in the eyes of God. And that line in Aurora's song kind of helped me to internalize that. And I'm very grateful for that. Also, her song Through the Eyes of a Child, which gained a lot of popularity kind of recently, was also a song that helped me a lot and got me through some really dark times. I had that song on repeat for a long time. But without a doubt, the music of the artist that I mentioned previously, Lauryn Marie, I would say, kind of was responsible largely for pulling me out of that depression, pulling me out of those shadows. And I really internalize the beauty and the insights that she has to offer in her music. And to this day, uh, it's an artist that I return to continuously for comfort, for insight, for appreciation of her lyrical dexterity and her, her sweetness of spirit and her willingness to um, try new things, but also to be authentic to herself. And she's an artist who is a lot younger than I am, but she's someone who inspires me a great deal and someone I admire, I guess you could say. And I think that's what we're looking for, isn't it, in art and artists, is people that we admire, people that inspire us, people that kind of enliven and quicken our spirit and make the struggles that we're dealing with less painful. And I hope I can offer that to the select few who, watch these videos and read the kind of esoteric free verse poetry on my blog or appreciate my video collages. I get that my art is not for everyone and that those people might be few and far between, but if I can do for others what people like Aurora Axnis and Lauryn Marie have done for me, then I feel like my work is valuable and I'm not just screaming into a void. And that's truly what I hope. I hope that, my creator will connect me to those people wherever they may be. And, the ones who really need to hear my kind of message or that will be touched or lifted or helped in some way by my particular kind of message and my particular kind of way of saying things and exploring these themes, that they will be moved by them and that a higher power will kind of, do the work that I can't do and connect us in some way. I mentioned Aurora and a line from her song that really touched me. And I also want to mention a line from one of Lauryn Marie's songs that really gave me a profound sense of comfort and hope through one of the worst times in my entire life. And that's a song called Wandering. And she based it on a hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. It's a kind of a Christian hymn. And so she posted this song on her YouTube channel, and it's a song that I find incredibly beautiful. And a line in particular really stays with me. And that line is, I'll play a song as loud as I can through the night, hoping you'll hear, hoping you'll bring me to light. And I found that incredibly beautiful. So in closing, I would like to just say a verse from that hymn, because I find its words incredibly touching, and it kind of reminds me to stay humble, to try and be as gracious as I can be with the people around me, and to never lose touch with the deeper strata of my own consciousness. I don't think I have to sacrifice insight in order to feel closer to my maker. If anything, I would imagine that my maker, the creator, the maker of us all, wants us to have as much insight and understanding of ourselves and each other and the world around us as possible, because that allows us to be more loving, to be more caring, to be of greater service to ourselves and to each other, and ultimately to, serve him or the higher power, however you choose to phrase it. So I want to just say this verse as a kind of, a kind of prayer and a blessing to anyone who needs to hear it. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness like a fetter bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it for thy courts above. And I think that's exceptionally beautiful. And regardless of what you believe or what faith you subscribe to, I hope you can appreciate the kind of sentiment in words like that. And I hope you can appreciate the sentiment in these videos that I'm making, and that I'm saying these things with a sense of genuine care and with an open heart and with immense gratitude that I'm still here, and that I get to live, a rewarding life, that I get to, have the love of someone beautiful by my side, that I got to experience music that opened my heart and healed my soul and made me reach for another, made me brave enough, kind and courageous enough to reach for another and to really embrace the gifts, that were bestowed upon me, and to not live, the remaining years of my life in kind of shadows and darkness and struggle. I think that because I do believe that, I possess a measure of clairsentient ability, I do possess a measure of psychic ability, there will always be a kind of struggle trying to negotiate those tensions. And I feel like I'll always be in some way a warrior of, the forces of light in this world. That's what I'm trying to be, even if that's symbolically. You don't have to take me literally. You can just see it as a kind of, a rhetorical device or a useful metaphor that I'm using to kind of figure out my place in a bizarre and very complex world, But for me, these themes and these topics and these interests have shaped me profoundly. And that's why I take them literally. That's why I take this kind of stuff incredibly seriously, because the scars that I bear are very real, but also the joys and the wonders that I've got to experience were also very real. And at this point in my life, I'm more grateful than ever that I was given this life, and that I was given these gifts, and that I get to share some of my creations and, my thoughts and my insights. And I want to do it now more than ever, because, I know I'm getting older, and I'm also in just a better place where I feel like I have the emotional strength to share these things with people who, might need to hear them. And so, in closing, I just want to say that the inward eye, that act of contemplation and trying to understand your place in a much larger mystery and a greater reality, I hope that your own inward eye, your own ability to self-reflect brings you closer to your maker, whether you figure that idea literally or metaphorically. And again, if I've ever consumed or experienced or resonated with any of the art that you've created, I thank you profoundly, from the bottom of my heart. We really are in this together, all of us. The things that we think separate us and divide us, I think in the eyes of our Creator are really almost nothing. So keep that in mind and know that there are forces beyond our comprehension all around us. Malevolent forces, but also benevolent forces. And those benevolent forces really do wish us well. They wished me well, and they're the reason I'm here. And they wish you well too. So I love you guys, and I hope you got something out of this more kind of personal video of mine. And I'll speak to you soon, guys. Peace.